Okay. Before America argued about constitutions, elections, branches of government, it argued about something far older and far more dangerous. Who decides what's right? Founders did not believe the law began with legislators. They believed the law existed before kings, before parliaments, and before constitutions. Government did not create justice. It was supposed to submit to it. That belief, ancient, Christian, and deeply Western, was the foundation of the American Republic. And without it, the entire system collapses into raw power. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band,
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not one small step for man.
Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
We pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
James Wilson, signer of the Declaration and Supreme Court Justice, wrote in his Lectures on Law in 1790, Law and liberty cannot rationally become the object of our love unless they first become the objects of our knowledge. Human law must rest its authority ultimately on the authority of that law, which is divine. Natural law is not a political theory invented in Philadelphia. It is the moral belief, it is the belief that moral truth is woven into creation itself. That right and wrong are not assigned by rulers, but discovered by reason and conscience. This idea runs through Western civilization. Roman jurists spoke of the law, right reason and agreement with nature. Christian thinkers like Augustine and Aquinas grounded it in theology. God created the world with order, and that order includes moral limits on human behavior. Under this view, murdering someone is wrong, whether the king forbids it or not. Theft is unjust, whether parliament approves it or not. And justice exists independently of human permission. Founders inherited this tradition. We talked about it in the last episode. They didn't see it as controversial. They saw it as obvious. I'm surprised we don't see it as obvious these days. John Jay, first Chief Justice and co-author of the Federalist Papers. Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. Christianity gave natural law its strongest foundation. If God created man with reason, conscience, and moral awareness, then man is accountable to a standard higher than himself. Law is not merely command backed by force. It is an expression of moral reality. This belief restrained power for centuries. Kings ruled under law. Judges swore oaths before God. Authority existed, but it was never absolute. The founders assumed this moral framework. They didn't debate whether the truth existed. They debated how to protect it from abuse. When the Declaration of Independence appeals to the law of nature and of nature's God, it is not poetic, it's legal. Jefferson is saying Parliament violated the higher law, that British statutes were illegitimate because they contradicted natural justice. Taxation without representation was not merely unpopular, it was unlawful in a deeper sense. This argument only works if law existed before government. Otherwise, Parliament was right. Power decides. Samuel Adams, he went on to say, the natural liberty of man is to be free from any superior power on earth, and it will not be under the will or legislation of authority of a man, but only to have that law of nature for his own rule. The founders believed that rights came from God, not government. That belief changes everything. We need to understand. If rights were granted by the state, then the state can revoke them. If rights are endowed by our Creator, the state is bound to respect them. This is why the Constitution is written the way it is. It does not say government gives speeches or gives speech. It says Congress shall make no law. It does not say government allows arms. It says the right shall not be infringed. These are restraints, not grants. And these blue states that keep people from defending themselves need to, they just need to, people in charge need to be removed and the laws need to be shut down. The Constitution is clear. Man-made law is necessary. The founders weren't anarchists. Governments must punish crime, resolve disputes, and protect order. But man-made law is legitimate only when it conforms to natural law. A statute that violates justice may be enforced by force, but it does not bind the conscience. The founders believed unjust law is a form of tyranny, and when passed, even when it's passed by its elected bodies. I mean, this belief justified resistance to Britain. It also justified limits on American government itself. Virtues were the guardrail of liberty. John Adams, right? Our Constitution was made only for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to government of any other. Public virtue cannot exist in a nation without private virtue. The founders were explicit. Self-government requires self-restraint. John Adams did not say the Constitution should grow stronger when morality grows weaker. He said the opposite. The system cannot survive a moral collapse. Washington warned that religion and morality were indispensable supports of political prosperity. Madison questioned whether liberty could exist without virtue. They weren't arguing for bigger government. They were warning what happens when moral restraint disappears. Liberty dies, power fills the vacuum. Alexander Hamilton said it. No legislative act, therefore, contrary to the Constitution, can be valid. The Constitution does not define justice, it assumes it. It doesn't teach morality, it assumes a moral people. That's why the document is limited. It presumes citizens already understand right and wrong. It presumes oaths mean something. It presumes law will be enforced honestly. It removes that moral, remove that moral foundation, and the Constitution becomes words on paper. And that's what we got today. We're not doing anything in our government according to the Constitution. Our government lacks absolute morality. George Washington's farewell address: of all the dispensations and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. Let it simply be asked, where is the security for prosperity, for reputation, for life, if the sense of religious obligation, desert the oaths, which are the instruments of investigation in the courts of justice? History shows what happens when laws are severed from moral truth. Law becomes the tool of ideology. Rights become conditional. Power becomes supreme. Federal judges are doing this crap all over our country right now. The founders had seen this in Europe. They watched kings rewrite laws to suit ambition. They built a system designed to prevent that by anchoring authority in something higher than itself. And once law only answers to power, liberty is finished. Benjamin Franklin said, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become more corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. And that's where we're at. Because we don't understand natural law. We don't hold true to the morals and virtues of our Christian formation. We now have hundreds of masters in office. It's retarded. Natural law was never enforced by the Constitution. It was assumed by it. The founders believed a people who recognized God, conscious, and moral limits could govern themselves with minimal authority. When that belief erodes, which we talked about why it's eroded before in the last episode, because of public education and liberalism, when that belief erodes, government does not become better, it becomes heavier. And it's not because it should. It's because power also always expands where restraint dies. The American Republic was built to restrain rulers. It can only function if citizens restrain themselves first. Natural law is not nostalgia. It's the foundation the founders believe could not be removed without the collapse of the entire structure of liberty. Man-made law was never meant to replace it, only to serve it. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Remember, history isn't boring. It's the story of a group of men that believed the laws of God preceded the laws of man and formed a new nation out of that belief. It's time we get back there. Otherwise, we ain't going to have a nation in the next few years. See you next time.